And when my water broke, I felt an instant like relief, but seconds later I felt the need to push, and I thought he was going to be born in the car. I was just like, oh my god. This is like the millionth time I'm doing this intro, but today I'm going to be talking about how I had another fast delivery. This is not my first super fast delivery, it is my second. I did not want it to go this way because it's a little bit traumatizing. My previous baby, so my third baby, Nathan, I had him within an hour. He was another fast delivery. I did a video all about that 5 years ago. Nico was also very fast. And when I say fast, as soon as I got to the hospital, I had to start pushing. No time for IVs, no time for epidurals, nurses ripping off my clothes as soon as I got there. There are a few things that contributed to me having him as fast as I did. So I'm going to be talking about that. That's kind of how I'm going to tell the story. So Nico was born, he's making noises, but he was born on October 29th, which is a very special day for his dad and I. That's a day that we have celebrated being together since we were in 7th grade. So this year we got to celebrate Nico's birth. So it was a very, very special day. I'm also going to be talking about how we picked his name because we did not have a name going into the hospital that day. Also, there's going to be some TMI in this video. So if you don't want people to hear, then don't play it around them. By 39 weeks, that's when I'm like, yes, we got to get the ball rolling, because I was physically exhausted. And once I found out how much Nico weighed, I'm like, oh my God, that makes sense why it was so physically hard for me, because he was my biggest baby at 8 pounds 9 ounces. Tuesday, October 26th, my mucus plug ended up coming out, but it was bloody, so it was kind of like a bloody show, I think that's what they call it. And the reason why that happened was because of sex. So sex definitely triggered my mucus plug coming out. Since I was bleeding for more than 24 hours, I did end up going to the hospital just to check and make sure everything was okay. My doctor told me to, because I had called them. I didn't bring Bernard to the hospital because I knew that nothing was going to end up happening. Like, I wasn't in labor or anything. I didn't feel any contractions. They got me in and out of triage pretty quickly. They did say that I was 3 centimeters. Damn, I forget how much effaced I was. I don't think I was really anything like as far as the effacement, and baby was not low at all. So I was not in active labor at all. They sent me about my way. They said the reason why I was bleeding is just because my cervix is a lot more sensitive than it used to be. Like they say, the older you get, more sensitive your cervix is. So sex had triggered that, and my mucus plug ended up coming with it. So on Friday, October 29th, I had my 39-week appointment. I was very anxious for this appointment because I did have a really big concern. I had been itching so much for the past 2 weeks. So from the time I was like a little bit before 38 weeks. And I didn't know why. At first I thought Bernard had changed to laundry detergent and maybe my skin was just a little bit more sensitive to it, but he said that he didn't. And I was the only one that was itching, and I don't really have sensitive skin like that. But I was itching so much to the point where I was making myself bleed at night. Like I showed my doctor the marks that I had. Like I told her, like, I'm like making myself bleed like all night. I'm just scratching. And because of TikTok, I actually learned that this is possibly cholestasis. So I mentioned it to her and she was like, all right, well, after your appointment, go get your blood work done. We're gonna test you for it. Let me just add that she said if I did have cholestasis, then I would be induced before Monday, which was November 1st, because it is a pretty serious condition. The only way to get rid of it is if you give birth. They got my results back by Saturday, and I did have cholestasis. And yes, the itching immediately went away after I gave birth. So that was that. She's like, if you're dilated, which I already knew I was, then do you want me to strip your membranes? And I'm just like I hate when I have to make a decision on the spot like that. I didn't have Bernard with me because of COVID. Your partner's not allowed in the room with you. Like, what do I do? And we had plans to go out to dinner. So I'm like, she was like, there's a chance you may have him today. There's a chance you might not. So I was like, oh boy. So I was like, all right, go ahead. She ended up stripping my membranes. She said that I was 4 centimeters dilated. Surprisingly, it didn't hurt for her to strip my membranes. I had it done with my second pregnancy, and that hurt very, very bad. But this time, it didn't hurt at all. I was surprised. Went and got my blood work done. I didn't really feel anything. I drove home by myself. didn't feel anything. So by 1 o'clock, since things weren't progressing, I decided, let me stimulate my nipples, because I have heard that that is something that works, and it makes sense as far as why it could induce you into labor. They say that it kind of tricks your body into thinking that baby's already here. It makes your uterus contract to go back to normal, but really baby is in your belly, so it'll just help you start contracting. And that did. I definitely felt some contractions around 1 o'clock, but still Bernard is like, do I need to cancel my calls for the day? Are we still gonna go out to dinner? I was like, honestly, like, I don't think you should cancel your calls for the day, because I don't really feel like I'm in active labor. Like, I was walking around like everything is fine, taking pictures. I'll leave a picture here. Really didn't think anything of it. So I started looking up ways as far as how to go into labor, because I'm like, I can't believe this. Like, I really not gonna go into labor after I just got my membrane stripped. So I looked up ways to induce labor, and I came across something that I've never heard before. It was called the Miles circuit. Miles circuit, from how I understand it, it's like different positions to help baby really go into your pelvis and sit on top of your uterus. And that's what I felt like I needed, because I never felt like Nico was low. Even after my appointment, even though he was 4 centimeters, I didn't think that he was that low, especially when I could feel him pretty high up when I was walking. So I was like, maybe this will work. So I try to get into these different positions that were mentioned in the video. It's kind of like downward dog. I will leave the video in the description so that way you guys can check it out. But around 2 o'clock-ish, that's when I ended up going to lay down. That's usually when I take my nap. And that's when I did one of the positions. And after I did those positions, like, I definitely felt like that helped me go into labor. By 2:50, I remember Bernard leaving. He said that he was gonna go to Wawa and he'll be right back. I remember as soon as the car left the driveway, I had the most intense contraction ever. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. Those intense contractions that I was not having before. And I have a high pain tolerance, but those contractions are like the worst, and that is when true labor is here, at least for me. And it reminded me of when I had Nathan, my 3rd baby. And I do have a video. I will leave it up here so that way you guys can check it out after this video and see how the two compare. While he was gone, I kept having contractions. I'm pretty sure at this point I'm in labor, because I can take pain, but these contractions were it. I told him, while you're out, you should probably go get Nathan, because I don't want to get stuck waiting for him. Because with Nathan, he needs someone to get him off the bus. And they say that it can't be a sibling. So we really didn't have time to organize any of this. I remember my daughter getting home first, and I was just like in so much pain. She usually comes in the room and says hi to me. I ask her how her day is. But like, I just couldn't even talk to her because I was in that much pain. So I'm telling Bernard, like, we have to go. Like, this is it. These contractions are it. I couldn't walk. It hurt to stand up. I was like, we gotta go. And Bernard's like, well, we have to figure out what to do with Nathan. So Bernard ended up calling the bus company, ended up calling the school to verify, to make sure that at least our daughter can get him off the bus, because I was in labor. Contractions were coming so quickly, one after another. I felt like I didn't have time to recover in between. It was to the point where I remember I heard Bernard, he didn't tell me, and it's funny just how we think we know each other. I could tell that he was bringing the car up front so that way I can get inside. So after my last contraction, I was here on the bed. I tried to run out the door, but I didn't make it, and that's how fast. From my bed to the front door, which I have a 1,000-square-foot house, like, it's pretty small. That's how fast the contractions were. I just didn't even have time to get out the door. So like, I ended up throwing myself on top of Bernard to put my weight on him, because it was just so painful. Like, I couldn't stand up with having this contraction. As soon as it was over, I ran to the car, and by the time I got in the car, I was having another contraction. That's how intense it was. It was a rainy ass day. Bernard is like trying to zoom and get us to the hospital. There's a cop that ends up behind us. We swore that he was about to pull us over, but he ended up pulling next to us, like, is everything okay? And I'm just like, no, I'm in labor. And he's like, well, why don't you call an ambulance? I'm just like, there's no way that I could wait for an ambulance. So I'm like, I was kind of rude to the cop, because like, why would you? To me, that was just something dumb to say while someone was in labor, but whatever. While we're on our way to the hospital, again, Bernard trying to get there as fast as we can, as fast as possible because I'm having these contractions back to back. About 2 minutes away from the hospital, my water ends up breaking. So if you're from the South Jersey area, local to me, I was on Jimmie Leeds Road when my water had broke right around JoJo's, and when my water broke, I felt an instant like relief, but seconds later I felt the need to push, and I thought he was gonna be born in the car. I was just like, oh my god, like you have to hurry up. You have, like, I was freaking out at this point. This is exactly what I was afraid of. I got really bad anxiety as of week 38 because what had happened with my third baby, I did not want to happen this time. It all happens so fast, and the pain is just, it hits me all at once, and it was just like a replay of before. So we ended up parking in like a handicap spot. That was the only spot that was left, but our wheeled me up. There was 2 nurses in the elevator that happened to work on labor and delivery, so they kind of like helped us like get through all the doors. My camera keeps dying, so I'm just gonna do this on my phone. The nurses, they ended up helping us get through all the doors so that way we didn't have to wait for someone to buzz us in. I get to triage again. They're like, well, you have to pee in a cup. I'm like, lady, I'm in labor. This baby is coming now. I need to push. And she was like, no, you really need to pee in this cup. I'm like, I cannot stand up. Like, I cannot get up. I'm about to have this baby. So finally, the other nurses, I guess the nurses that were in the elevator told them, the people at the other desk, that I was in labor, and they all kind of got me into a room. As I'm getting on the bed, they stripped me of all my clothes. They had no time for IVs this time, no time for pain medicine. I could tell that Nico was pretty far down because it hurt just to lift up my legs and put them in the stirrups. Like, it was painful just to do that, and I think that's because he was in the birth canal already. As soon as I got my legs in the stirrups, I had to push. Like, it all just happened so fast. My body was like naturally pushing him out, and the nurse, the midwife, was also helping take him out, but it was like maybe 2 or 3 pushes and he was out. And I was so relieved once he was out. But there's a few things that happened that was kind of like traumatizing as well that I'll talk about. But the main things that have helped me have a fast delivery was getting my membrane strips, stimulating my nipples, the mile circuit, doing those positions. He was there after I did the mile circuit thing. The afterbirth part hurt so much. The most this was probably the most painful afterbirth experience I had out of all 4 of my kids. My first 2 kids, I did have an epidural, but my third pregnancy again was another very, very fast delivery. I didn't have an epidural with that one, but I don't remember the afterbirth hurting as much as this time. So they got the afterbirth out of me, but I was bleeding a lot. They were like trying to get the IV in me as soon as possible so that way they could give me whatever they had to give, so that way I can also get out all the blood clots. They were pushing on my stomach. This felt like the hardest they have ever had to push on my stomach. They were there for a long time trying to get stuff out of me. They had to call in another doctor to make sure, I guess, I didn't need anything else. They were sticking pills up my butt so that way, I guess, I don't know if the pills were so that way I could stop bleeding or so that way my uterus would continue to contract. But during all of this, I was going in and out. I just remember feeling so tired, and like, yeah, I almost felt like I was high. Like, it was such a weird experience, and I don't think Bernard realized what I was going through. He was going back and forth between me and the baby, calling the kids, but he was like, so what are we gonna name the baby? And I just remember, like, I can't concentrate right now. Like, I can't think of what I want to name him. Like, we went into the hospital not knowing what we were gonna name Nico. The names that we had picked were Romeo. That was my #1 name. I love Romeo. I always said that I wanted an athlete like name, and Romeo just kind of reminded me of Tony Romo, his last name. And also I said if he happened to be born on our anniversary, I want his name to be Romeo. I thought it would be cute because we've been together since we were kids. And then I also like the name Jrue, and I got Jrue from watching the finals during basketball season when I was pregnant. I got that name from Jrue Holiday. I just liked how it was different. It's spelled J-R-U-E. The only thing I didn't like about that name was it being 1 syllable. So those were our top 2 names the entire time. The Saturday before Nico was born, Bernard happened to be watching basketball, and Muhammad Ali's grandson was boxing. His name is Nico. So when I was like, I kind of like that name, I looked at him like, I've already gone over this name with you, and you said that you didn't like it before. I was like, no, I kind of like it. So as I'm going through all this stuff in the hospital, Bernard's asking me about names. It's like, I really don't know. He was like, all right, well, how about we just pick Nico? It's like, okay, I like Nico. It's like, well, what about his middle name? I still like Romeo, because Romeo was my top pick, but I didn't like Nico, and I didn't like the O at the end of Nico and then the O at the end of Romeo together, Nico, Romeo. So we picked Jrue. Nico is now 3 months old, but all of that still sits pretty fresh in my brain. I know some people may see it as a positive, like, oh, you only had to deal with that pain for an hour. Yes, but it's like all the time that I did not feel pain, that hour made up for it. It was very intense, very excruciating. I had all of 30 seconds in between each contraction. And no, I did not stay calm. But shout out to Bernard, because he did stay very calm. I don't know how he did it, but he managed everything while I was in labor. But yeah, that whole afterbirth experience was pretty wild. Seeing all the blood, feeling all the blood, like the midwife literally scraped the blood clots out of me. And I forgot to mention that, and I could like feel them just like plop onto the table. And there was so many like sheets or like the things that they put underneath of you of blood. The more kids you have, the more likely you are to hemorrhage. So yeah, I'm good off of all of that. I thought this video would be done a lot sooner, but Nico is just now finally taking consistent naps, actually going into his crib instead of me holding him. So that's why it's taking me so long. I don't know if I'm the best storyteller, but if you have made it this far, thank you so much for watching.